Fellas, in today's video, we're going to be going over the top 5 handguns for a new gun owner. Let's get into the list. Roll the intro.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Ben Hart Shoots.
Good luck. All right, gentlemen, we made it. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for stopping by once again. I appreciate you guys as always. So today's video is the top 5 pistols for a new gun owner. I want to kind of talk about my thought process when I made this list. If you're a new, if you're someone who's new to owning a pistol, you've never owned one before, and you're looking to get your first one, it can be a little bit daunting and it can be very intimidating. In the past, 5 to 7 years, the amount of different types of handguns that have, become popular has 10x'd in size. And so now more than ever, it could be a little bit complicated and confusing on which one to get. The overall quality of guns in general has gone up significantly, in my opinion, and so you're less likely to buy a bad one than you were before. But that doesn't mean there aren't bad ones out there. So in my mind, the thought process is, if you are someone who is brand new to handguns, but you want a gun, but you're not really going to train with it, you just kind of want to have it, like in your bedside or maybe in your truck or in your car, that is a specific type of buyer. If you're a person who is new to firearms, but really thinks that you might fall into the hobby a little bit, you may want to tinker with it. You may want to I can't say certain words, but you may want to mess with it a little bit. That is another type of first firearm buyer. If you are someone who tends to be very competitive, maybe you are looking to buy your first handgun and you kind of have a feeling you might get into competition. That's another type of first-time firearm buyer. There's a lot of different types of first-time buyers out there. Some people want guns that are strictly for EDC. They don't think they want to buy a gun because they want to have it on them every single day, which I support 100%, and they don't want anybody to know they have it. So that's another consideration to think about. I feel like my list is pretty diverse, but it also, I think it's pretty widely accepted which guns, especially in the polymer striker-fired kind of arena, I think it's pretty widely accepted that there are some brands that are good and reputable and dependable, and there are ones that aren't. So while this list may not surprise you, I think a lot of you may agree with my perspective, but there's definitely going to be a few of you that disagree, as well as I'm guaranteed going to miss your choices. So if you guys don't mind, drop in the comments below your top 5 pistols you would recommend for a new pistol owner in the comments. I'm really, just like my top 5 AR-15s video, I'll link it up here. It was really fun to see the variations in top 5. Some were really crazy, some were really out there and sort of abstract, some were more basic but consistent, and I love seeing that stuff. Plus the engagement helps the channel a lot. So if you guys don't mind, drop a comment below your top 5 pistols you'd recommend for a first-time handgun owner. Let's go ahead and get into the list. So in no particular order, my number 5 is the SIG P365. Now, before you freak out, it's not the 320. The 320, don't buy that gun. I'll just say it straight up at this point in 2025, do not buy that gun. The 365 first came out in 2018, and ever since then, it's been a massive staple in the firearms community. This pistol was probably the first micro concealed carry high capacity 9mm EDC pistol out there. I know it's kind of a mouthful, but most guns of this size at the time, it's the original model, which we'll get into that, there's many variations. The original model of the 365 was about the same size as single stack 9mm pistols of the time, as well as a lot of 380s. And the difference was it carried 10 rounds in its base flush magazine, carried 10 rounds of 9mm in a package that was incredibly tiny, very concealable, very easy to carry, comfortable, all those different things. The 365 comes in at a price of anywhere from
500 dabblers.
This is MSRP, so just keep that in mind. You can find different deals when you go and get them pre-owned, all the way up to nearly 1,000 with the very, very, very nice versions of them. But that is a very wide range. I would say the average is probably around the
600 to 1625 doubloon
range. Now, what really makes me like the idea of recommending the 365 to a first-time firearms owner is you have almost like a Glock. You have almost unlimited potential. I can't even tell you how many different types of versions there are of the 365. It's almost overwhelming. There's the original, the X, the XL, Spec Series, X Macro Comp, the new Lux version, the Fuse, Rose Edition. I mean, there's a ton. There are so many, and the reason is well, one, SIG, that's just how they do it. They've always been like that. They always release a ton of SKUs for the same type, model of pistol. But This pistol also used one of the first well-executed versions of a chassis system. And what that means, if you're new to firearms, when you go to purchase a firearm, doesn't matter which one it is, the serialized item or the part that you have to file your 4473 for when you go to the gun store to buy it is the frame. So if you ever wanted to change anything about that gun, you would have to, if you want a different frame or grip size or grip texture or things like that, either you would have to adapt it. Again, I can't say certain words. You'd have to pay a lot of money to get it done custom, or you have to go and purchase another frame, which means you have to go and fill out another 4473 and pay another transfer fee and all that. The 365 uses a chassis system. They call it the FCU. It's the fire control unit. That unit is all the inner workings of the pistol. And when that unit you can completely remove it from the grip and the slide, that is the serialized component. So now you kind of have like the heart of the pistol that you can take and add whatever type of grip you want, whatever type of slide you want, and configure the pistol to how you want it and how you want to carry it. There are some people that the 365 in a standard configuration is too small. And for most cases, I agree. Unless you are trying to go hyper deep concealment, the original 365 to me was slightly too small, a little bit snappy, kind of difficult to shoot. Not unpleasant by any means. If you're a normal person, you can totally shoot that gun perfectly fine. But if you're part of you're into the hobby and you want to maximize everything and you want to tinker a little bit, the original was a little bit small. Once they started coming out with the X and the XL and the X Macro, now you can buy different frames to put on that FCU to increase your capacity all the way up to the largest so far, which I believe is the X Macro or the Fuse, that size of grip, which is 17 plus 1 rounds. That is greater capacity than a Glock 19 while being nearly half the size. Lots of, for a first-time buyer, if you're thinking about buying your first gun, this gun would do well just being in your bedside, of course. If you're someone who wants to tinker and have fun, the aftermarket is unbelievably expansive. And if you're someone who wants to actually carry this every single day, wide holster availability, flashlight bearing or non-light bearing holster availability, tons of optics for it, an incredible amount of aftermarket support for carry type products. And that gun is something that you could have, if you only could have one, that gun could kind of evolve over time to match your level of shooting competency or your desire to learn more. That gun can really scale with you. So that's why the 365 is my number 5. However, there are a couple of downsides. Obviously, SIG is a company, I'm gonna be honest, as of right now, guys, I'm just not that big of a fan of the company. Not saying all the people that work there are bad people, just like many other organizations in the world, but the overall company and their ideology and how they handle the 320 controversy has been very disappointing. And so for that reason, I personally stepped away from SIG. I had an X Macro and I sold that in order to move on to something different in my shadow systems. There at the very, very, very beginning of the launch of the 365, there was some reliability issues, as well as it has gotten a little bit older, you can see that some of them, there might have been just a singular batch, but from what I've seen, it kind of has been a semi-consistent problem, that some of the coatings are not that great, causing them to rust pretty significantly. If you carry this gun every single day, especially here in Texas, where it can be unbelievably hot, all the salt from your sweat can interact with the metal and cause some pretty heavy rusting issues, which is not the end of the world, but it is definitely not something you want to see on a pistol that at its very most expensive configuration is, near $1,000. Just not something you want to see, especially from a massive manufacturer like that. So just keep that in mind when you're buying one. If you do end up buying one used, take a look at the iron sights, make sure they're not rusted, take a look at the magazines not rusted, inside the slide rails, things like that, and you should be fine. But overall, very reliable, very shootable, great size package, great capacity, very, very, very good pistol for a new gun owner. So that's my number 5, the SIG 365. Let's go to number 4.
Guys, we all think about protecting ourselves and other people in the 2A community, but what about protecting your personal info online? That's where today's sponsor, Aura, comes in. Data brokers are companies that buy and sell your data without your consent and make billions off of it, but then they're legally required to remove your info if you ask them, but they make that process super difficult and way overcomplicated on purpose. Aura automatically reaches out to these companies on your behalf and requests that they remove your information from their databases, and they keep it off. I've been using Aura for a couple weeks now, and honestly, I am really impressed with how easy and simple the app is to use. And also, it's only been a couple weeks, and Aura has already requested from 34 different data brokers that my info be taken off of their databases. That's crazy, 34 in 2 weeks, that's insane. They even found that some of my data had been exposed in a data breach going back all the way to 2017. Aura also monitors your credit, alerts you to fraud, and helps protect your identity with real-time alerts, antivirus, VPN, and more. It's a all-in-one, easy-to-use app. Me personally, I use the VPN all the time because I am constantly using public Wi-Fi when I'm out traveling and editing these videos for you guys. One little small anecdote, it's kind of fun. Aura was able to tell me how many cars I've ever had in my life and every single model, which is kind of cool. I'm a big car guy. Turns out I've had 14 cars in my lifetime. That's cool and sad at the same time. I'm not really sure how to feel about that. Look, fellas, these data brokers are thieves, and I am not leaving myself exposed, and neither should you. So using my link down in the description, you can try Aura free for 14 days, and in those 2 weeks, you're gonna find out where your info is being exposed. Guys, you can directly support the channel by clicking the links that we provide down in the description for the sponsors that sponsor these videos. There are not many companies who are willing to associate themselves with 2A advocates or 2A adjacent people. So the ones that do are greatly appreciated. They're few and far between. So thanks again to Aura for sponsoring this video. Check out the link in the description. Now let's get back to the video. So for my number 4, first pistol of a new gun owner is the Canik MC9 Prime. Now I know this might be kind of crazy. It is definitely not something I thought I would say in regards to Canik because there have been some reliability issues with them in the past. However, the MC9 Prime, from what I have seen in the MC9 series, aside from some initial issues at the very beginning, just like the 365 and other firearms, aside from that, they have been very reliable. And the MC9 Prime, specifically the Prime, comes in at, let me check my computer here. I got it pulled up. Yeah, it's unreal, guys. This thing is coming in at
600 doubloons.
And this is nearly, in my opinion, this is nearly a perfectly spec'd out handgun. 1, optics ready. 2, incredible slide serration, slide work. 3, it's ported on the top there with a tri-ported barrel. 4, great grip texture all the way around in all the important places. 5, incredible trigger. This is a extremely well thought out package, very shootable gun, incredibly shootable gun. Still comes in at a Glock 19 size as far as the length of the grip and length of the slide. However, the width is only about 1 inch wide, and that allows us to be a very, very concealable and comfortable carry gun for anybody, even if you're new to firearms. The reason why this is number 4 is because not only is this a great carry gun, this is a very shootable gun. And what I mean by that is, if you're new to firearms and you end up, buying your first one, really enjoying it and getting into the hobby quite heavily, you start shooting competitively, you start going to local matches, you start going to local ranges, meeting new people, making friends that also go shooting, you go, once every couple of weeks. This gun can keep up with you for a very long time. It would take you a very long time to start out shooting this gun or outworking this gun. It even comes equipped with a flared magwell in the OEM configuration out of the box. And so even as far as manipulations and, as you start to learn reloads and trying to do, 1R1s or bill drills or whatever, this gun can really perform at a high level. And because of that, I feel like it's almost a perfect fit, in my opinion. There are some people that will have a gripe with this because Canik, this is the first one made in the USA, but Canik originally, I believe, is I think it's a Turkish company. I understand that. This is the one that's the first pistol from Canik that's made 100% in the USA. They also have some really incredible red dots. This is the Canik M04 enclosed emitter concealed carry red dot. I'm gonna have a whole video on this red dot, but this is a very, very impressive optic, which just makes this package overall unbelievably impressive. And the way this gun feels, and I have had my wife, who's not super into handguns and pistols, but she shoots, fairly regularly with me, myself, a lot of friends that shoot a lot, and I've also had people that have never held a gun in their life before hold this, and the first thing they say is, "Ooh, I like that. Like, this feels good." That's very important. That initial feeling of confidence, in my opinion, is very, very underrated and underspoken about. I think that that initial feeling of, I like this a lot, this feels capable, feels confident, makes you fall deeply in love with the platform, causing you to start shooting more and training more and becoming more involved in, firearms as a whole, which then leads into 2A and all kinds of stuff. So in my opinion, this is a wonderful package. Now, the last two things I'll talk about is the capacity. This is also a 17+1 magazine or a 17 round magazine, and the full package is 17 plus 1 in the chamber. Again, insane capacity for a gun this size. I'll pull up a Glock 19-esque size pistol. This is the Lone Wolf Rainier Arms collaboration Dusk 19R. It's a integrated compensator or ported Glock clone. This is a Glock 19 size. As you can see right here is almost identical in size. I'm gonna do this best I can for you guys. Right there. Very similar in size. Grip length, line them up. Very similar. Slide length, very, very similar. They're almost identical, right? But then you look at the back here and look at the difference in width. That's where that carryability really comes into play. That being said, when Glock 19s have a standard capacity of 15 rounds, and this has 2 more rounds inside of it for a smaller package, already we're kind of like, oh wow, that's sort of great. One of the shining stars of Canik since the very beginning, because originally they were based, as far as I understand, they were loosely based or very closely based on Walthers, which have very good triggers, is that Canik triggers have always been excellent. And this one is no different. It's a very large pad with serrations on the trigger shoe right there, very flat across the whole way. It's very easy to control where your trigger finger pulls on the trigger. And not only is it comfortable, it is extremely great. So there's your take up. Wall, no creep, crisp break, hardly any travel, no over travel, and a reset to die for right there. Forceful, tactile. You can shoot this gun incredibly fast, guys. I'm not joking. If there were more holster availability, and that's one of the negatives I was gonna get into, if there was more holster availability for this gun, especially with a light bearing option, this would be my carry gun. I'm gonna say that right now. It feels that good, and I am that confident shooting this pistol. So again, trigger, wonderful. The last pro I was gonna talk about that really stands out to me, there's a lot of pros on it, but the big one is the ports. You see that tri-ported barrel on top. Now, because of the way this gun is sprung, it's a little bit stiffer, the ports don't work quite as well as you would assume that they would. Does that mean they don't work at all? No. I think these ports do work. It's just not gonna shoot like a Staccato XC, okay? And you can't expect a gun this small to shoot quite that flat unless you get something like my CR920 XP, which has a massive island style compensator on the front. This is a ported barrel at the very end with a tightly sprung recoil spring. Shoots way flatter than the standard in my opinion, but it's not a 2011, and that's okay. Now, ported barrels do lead to some louder concussion noise. All guns are loud. I really don't think that's as big of a problem as people think it is. Now, if you're using it defensively in like a bedroom, it's gonna be loud. But again, at that point, I think hearing is the last thing I'm really worried about. Having a ported barrel on your first gun, I think it kind of like jump starts, in my opinion, at least for me. It sort of jump starts your level of interest in the hobby, because ported barrels are kind of something most of the time people would get into, you know, their first, second, third, fourth, fifth gun, and then they're like, oh, porting barrels is a thing, I'm gonna try that. I don't like my recoil, and then they get it done. This one comes with it from the factory and kind of jump starts you and be like, oh, this is just how it is. When really ported barrels before especially like 2024-ish, were a little bit more of an aftermarket solution. So it's just really cool. I think it's a really tastefully done, aesthetically pleasing, great shooting, massively well-equipped pistol from the factory, and for a price of, right now at Academy Sport,
600 doubloons.
I mean, that is insane. And of course, comes with a ton of stuff. Interchangeable back straps, cleaning kit, a holster from G-Code. I believe it's a G-Code holster. This is the only pistol that you can say you literally can buy it, and as long as you have ammo to put in the magazine, you can immediately start carrying the pistol. Now, is it the best holster in the world? Definitely not, by any means. It's kind of a compromised holster because it has to be able to be used for left-handed and right-handed shooters, but it is something that you can immediately start carrying the gun, which is really fantastic, or going to the range and training with it. So for that reason, I definitely, very confidently say that the Canik MC9 Prime is my number 4 pistol I would recommend to a new handgun owner. Let's go ahead and get into my number 3. Okay, so for number 3, this is for, I believe, the person who wants to buy a gun and they want to carry it every single day, and they never, ever, ever want to not have a gun on them. They may not go to the range very much and train and really dive into the hobby, but they're someone who is so committed to carrying every single day that, I mean, you'll never find them without their gun on them. I know a couple of guys like that they don't shoot a lot. They may not even be the best shooters out there in the world, but man, I tell you what, they carry every single day. No matter what they're wearing, they always have their gun on them. And for that, I actually applaud them. I think it's really cool. I wish they would train some more and become better, more proficient shooters, but the fact they're carrying every single day is really great. So anyway, my number 3 is going to be the Bodyguard 2.0 by Smith & Wesson. I would have one to show you guys, but unfortunately it's in my wife's crossbody bag right now. So if you're out there and you see my wife somewhere and you're thinking about messing with her, don't, because she'll shoot your ass. But the Bodyguard 2.0 is the only 380 on the list. 380, if you guys don't know, is a smaller bullet than a 9mm, and it's a little bit less energetic and less effective on target. Is it a inadequate self-defense round? Some people might say yes. In my opinion, I think with a specific self-defense load, like Hornady Critical Duty or something like that, Critical Defense, I think it is more than adequate. And in some cases, as long as you are putting effective rounds downrange at your intended target, they're very effective. So the Bodyguard 2.0 was Smith & Wesson's revived version of their original Bodyguard series, which was, in my opinion, not great. Not ergonomic, carried very few rounds, very uncomfortable to shoot, just limited in a lot of ways. Felt very past gen, very boomer, if I'm honest. Very, FUD, like Joe Biden telling you to shoot a shotgun in the air to scare him. It just reminds me of that era of firearms. The Bodyguard 2.0 really stepped into modernity and gave us pretty much a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 shrunk down to a 380 size. It's very small. This is a seriously micro concealed carry pistol that you can pocket carry in even medium-sized pockets, even female pockets in some cases, and you would have no idea that you have 12 plus 1 rounds of 380 inside of it. I don't care who you are. If you get shot with 12 rounds of self-defense ammo 380, that's gonna sting. The Bodyguard 2.0 not only is so tiny, but it is so easy to shoot. Great iron sights that allow for a really simple sight picture that you can pick up very quickly, because that gun is not a target shooting gun. You're going to be within 10 yards probably pulling it out and just letting it rip. Incredible grip texture given the intended purpose of the gun. It is not the M&P 2.0 texture like this, which on my full-size M&Ps is super duper aggressive, like sandpaper, right? That's what everybody says. And for some people it can be too aggressive for carry, and I agree. I have a little soft tummy. I don't want to carry that sometimes. But it's enough texture to allow you to, even in a stressful environment, to take the gun out of in like my case, I carry in a crossbody bag, out of a crossbody waistband with some sweat on it, and not feel like it's just going to fly out of your hand. It has effective slide serrations that you really would not see on a gun of this style ever before. Usually a lot of compromised ergonomics and features when it comes to these smaller 380s. Even on something like the Ruger LCP Max, which is probably the most prolific 380 high capacity carry gun before the Bodyguard 2.0. But in my opinion, the Bodyguard 2.0 completely just made that pistol irrelevant. If I'm honest, I'm sorry, Ruger. They just ate the hell out of your lunch there. I'm sorry. Great trigger, great ergonomics. Even though I have a large to XL sized hand, with the 12+1 magazine extension in the pistol, I get a full grip, which is incredible, super thin. I mean, for us, it's been 100% reliable. Just an amazing pistol. I cannot speak highly enough of the Bodyguard 2.0. They also have the Bodyguard 2.0 carry comp, which Smith & Wesson does a carry comp version of pretty much all their guns at this point. And the carry comp usually means a slightly longer barrel with a chunk port cut out of the top, almost very similar to the Canik MC9 Prime, whereas holes cut on the front of the barrel and also through the slide. That, in theory, cuts down on some of that recoil impulse and maybe some recoil in the hand. It does not recoil that much because it's a 380, but because of its size, it can be a little bit abrasive for some people, if you want to say that. Nothing serious, guys, by any means, but just a little bit. And in an age where people just want, like, it's a constitutional right, it's something that is a hobby, and it's something that people just kind of, in some ways, like, brand identity is a big part of it too. Sometimes you just want a cool version of whatever gun you have. And if the Bodyguard 2.0 on its own isn't cool enough, well, now there's a carry comp and it's got a cool compensator on the front, so it's just kind of fun. And although some people say it's unreasonable and not needed, I get it. But honestly, at this point, if I want what I want, I'm just going to buy it. And I'm glad that Smith & Wesson is at least giving us options and doing things that are kind of fun and maybe unreasonable. Because before, in my opinion, Smith & Wesson was struggling to find the attention of the wider 2A community, especially when it came to new firearm buyers, because they just didn't offer enough, and it didn't offer things that were new and fun. And I really believe, like, the Bodyguard 2.0, it's just like this cute little thing that it's just kind of goofy. It looks so almost like a novelty. But then you go to the range, you start burning it down, and it's like, damn, this thing, you can really shoot this gun really well. So anyways, go watch my full review on the Bodyguard 2.0. I have that posted. I had a blast filming that review, and shout out to my wife for filming, being the camera lady on that one. Would super duper recommend the Bodyguard 2.0. And if I didn't say it before, I probably didn't. It comes in, the base version comes in at a MSRP of
$399 doubloons.
a very good value pistol, not too expensive, not too cheap to where you're kind of starting to doubt yourself, like, is this even a good quality gun? Good, healthy price right there. Very capable. Now that it's been out for a few months, lots of holsters available for it. I would highly recommend getting a strong side holster for this thing. Just totally disappears, or off-body, cross-body carry is mint with the Bodyguard 2.0. When I go running, which is not that often, I need to go running some more, I throw the Bodyguard 2.0 into a cross-body bag and just have it over my chest so I have nothing on my belt line where it kind of gets uncomfortable, and just fits that role perfectly. So that is my number 3 pistol I would recommend to a new firearms owner, a new pistol owner, the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. Let's go to pistol number 2. Okay, so staying on the Smith & Wesson train, my number 2 pistol I'd recommend for a new handgun owner is going to be a Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0. This is one of, if you guys know me, which at this point I've been doing YouTube for a little while, I know some of you guys at least kind of know my style at this point. The M&P 2.0 is one of my favorite pistol platforms out there. For one, it has the reliability that can match anybody else's. I don't care what brand you think is more reliable than M&P. I feel like M&Ps stand up in that regard to any brand out there. HK, Glock, Sig, just had to throw it in there, Beretta, it doesn't matter. This is a well-renowned pistol platform that has been proven over decades and decades and decades of military, law enforcement, and civilian usage forever. As far as its reputation, you can feel supremely confident in an M&P 2.0. Now, I also believe that the M&P 2.0, because it's been around for so long, there are some older versions of it and some newer versions. And what that does is it allows you to have a wide span of configurations, features, and price points. Because there's so many variations, the price can be a little bit all over the place, but I'm gonna say pretty confidently that, yeah, that's kind of what I guessed. I would say anywhere from
500 to 1,000 doubloons.
Depending on what version you want to get. Again, they have like competition versions and full metal versions and compensated, all this different type of stuff. Of course, on the used market, you can find these for far less than that, especially the older editions, and even less for the M&P 1.0. The M&P 2.0 has been through so many renditions at this point that I really feel like they've gotten it down to almost its like perfect Nexus edition or whatever. The triggers are vastly improved from the original. Great triggers. Ergonomics of the M&P have always been wonderful. These are very comfortable guns, and there's something about them, I can't quite articulate it, but this gun, even though in the polymer version, fundamentally it is the same as a Glock, there is something about them, in my opinion, that just feels like they shoot nicer. They're a little bit smoother, they're sprung, in my opinion, a little bit better, and they feel very balanced. So the M&P 2.0 for a new gun owner is a gun you could buy and fit all the different categories of those new gun buyers I talked about at the beginning of the video. Someone who wants to carry a gun, you can get the M&P 2.0 compact and carry that every single day and be very comfortable and competent on the range with it. If you want to be someone who, you know, you buy your first gun and you want to start competing because you're just a very competitive person, they literally have the M&P 2.0 competitor. So there you go, a big, 5-inch length slide, very balanced gun. Now they have the M&P 2.0 metal, which for those guys who, maybe let's say this, I just thought about this. Say you're a new gun owner, you kind of are someone who just likes that hardy metal gun feeling. Some people are just like that. Like they may want to buy a revolver and they might want to buy an old 1911. There's just something about, if maybe, let's say you're an older person, you have been around guns your whole life, never had your own, but the guns that you grew up with or grew up around were all older guns, and most older guns were metal, and you don't want to buy those plastic guns, right? Those polymer plastic guns, like a Glock or whatever it is. Well, now you can go buy an M&P 2.0 metal and be completely squared away, right? The M&P 2.0 is just, for some reason, a underdog, in my opinion. They're always part of the conversation, always. When people talk about, what's one of your favorite guns, or what is one of the most reliable guns, they're always in that conversation. But they're never, I won't say never, they are oftentimes not the number one. And in my opinion, that is due in part to a lot of failures as far as Smith & Wesson's marketing strategies and the way that they kind of their brand planning. When it comes to a lot of really, really strong, good shooters who are very skilled at evaluating pistols and put thousands of rounds downrange, tens of thousands every year, there are many of them that choose M&P pistols, and for good reason. So I could talk about these all day long, but really go take a look at some videos reviewing these things. Go check out Honest Outlaw. He does fantastic honest reviews. Hunter Constantine shoots M&Ps competitively. If you are curious about the M&P 2.0 platform, and especially in regards to your first pistol ever, check out those guys. I don't think you'll be upset. And this thing, I mean, you can depend on it every single time. And if it can fit your purchasing criteria, no matter what budget or whatever role you have, there is an option of the M&P 2.0 for you. And so for that reason, I think the number 2 spot is very well suited for the M&P 2.0. Let's get into my number 1. Okay, so before we get to number 1, I'm gonna give some honorable mentions because like I said before, there are so many pistols out there now, guys. I feel like, 4 years ago, it was Glock, Smith & Wesson, SIG, Beretta, and that's it. Like there were not many. I feel like those were just kind of the options, right? The main options. Now we have Ross Martin, we have Shadow Systems, Smith & Wesson, Springfield, 320s, Berettas, Canics, Walther. Like there are so many brands of pistols out there, which is great because now you have a wide variety of options to choose from, and you can really dive in and kind of get autistic with it and find the one that perfectly matches what you want. And I love that. But that is why for stuff like this, I'm going to say, my top 5, and someone's like, oh, you forgot about the original edition of the Browning High Power, and it's like, okay, I understand, man, I get it. Everyone's got their special little tism taste, but I wanted to give a couple of honorable mentions just to kind of show you guys that I did consider some other very popular types of pistols, but they didn't, for me, this is my list of what I would recommend, they didn't quite make the cut. So let's go ahead and get into some honorable mentions, and we're gonna breeze through these pretty quick. So, number 1, and this is a big, this was the one that was really fighting for the position of the Canik MC9 Prime, my number 4. I thought about putting in the Smith & Wesson Shield X, which I do have around here somewhere. Give me a second. All right, here it is. So I thought about putting the Smith & Wesson Shield X as the number 4 spot in place of the Canik MC9 Prime because these compete very closely as far as size, profile, kind of overall dimensions, and they sort of fit that high capacity, micro concealed carry, I can't say micro, subcompact concealed carry role. However, as sick as this pistol is, which it is, this is literally a 1-to-1 ratio nearly of the Bodyguard 2.0 just exploded up a little bit larger. 13-1 flush fit, 15 round extended magazine here with great capacity, good barrel length, incredible ergonomics, wonderful trigger, optics ready. Just everything you could want in a concealed carry gun. The only reason I didn't, and some people may get frustrated at this, and I understand the frustration, I just had to throttle it just a little bit, is that this just came out. And because it's just came out, and I know it's from Smith & Wesson, and their guns are, usually almost always perfect, even on launch. They don't have many issues on launch. I just can't say that this is something I'd recommend quite yet because this literally came out 3-4 weeks ago. So until it is just a little bit more well vetted in the community, in the wider, gun community out there, law enforcement, whoever wants to use this, different contracts, whatever, as soon as it is a little bit more well vetted and before I can even get, a few rounds on it as well, I just couldn't justify recommending it as one of my top 5s yet. But let's put an asterisk here. If this is reliable and this is a very dependable firearm, from everybody else's reports and mine, this would take a spot in the top 5 for sure. For sure. And this comes in at a great deal as well. I got this one for kind of a smoking deal, but around
500 doubloons.
So honorable mention for sure is the new Smith & Wesson Shield X. So another honorable mention I want to give to the Ruger RXM. So let's talk about Glock real quick. And Glock's also, I'll just, spoiler alert, Glock's also on the honorable mentions, okay? Okay, I know. Put your comment down below. I can't believe he wouldn't say Glock is the best. They've been around, they're Glock perfection and da-da-da-da. I understand, guys, I understand. I have owned dozens of Glocks at this point is what it seems like. And I still shoot, Glock adjacent platforms, okay? Glock is a wonderful pistol. They're extremely reliable. They are coming at a good value. Their aftermarket support is wonderful. They used to be the one and only because they were the only perfectly reliable pistol. And this is really gonna ruffle some feathers. But recently, I have seen some content from reputable people and people that I don't think are just shysters trying to get some views, showing that the Glocks that they have been getting recently have had a couple issues. Now, the problem with being the best one and the perfect one is that no matter how small the issue is that you have, it seems so much greater and more disappointing because of the reputation that you have, had the entire time. Not saying that Glocks are unreliable and putting that kind of like broad statement on everything. No, not saying that at all. In my opinion, they're underfeatured. They're falling behind in market share. You can see that on actual graphs of sales worldwide and sales within the US. They're falling behind out of relevance, in my opinion, in a lot of ways. Not saying that they are not relevant. I'm saying they are losing relevance. They have refused to change some things about them that unilaterally people complain about, like the MOS system, right? Or the plastic sights, things like that. And I just don't feel like they truly are the best option, because there are guns out there that, especially for a first-time owner who may not be putting 20,000 rounds a year on their gun, there are plenty, in my opinion, firearms out there that meet the reliability standards of somebody who is a first-time gun owner, and they meet the simplicity and manual of arms to where it's not a massive, difficulty for someone new to firearms to learn how to use them. And so for that reason, Glock is an honorable mention. Now back to the RXM. Ruger and Magpul, Ruger X Magpul, they basically did what Glock should have done a long time ago. Now I understand, with Gaston Glock passing away, and I'm sure, when you get a company that big, the amount of steps it takes to change anything increases exponentially, and the time it takes to make a small tweak changes exponentially. I understand that. It's kind of a trickling down effect. Ruger came out with a polymer frame, Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5, kind of a mix of all of them really, Glock clone that uses the chassis-based system like the 365. And what that does is it gives you this new, following the trend of new gun owners and gun buyers wanting to customize and configure things how they want them to. It gave you the option to do that with a Glock, rather than Glock just saying, here's the 47, and it uses a shorter line guide rod, and now you can put your slide on, the 19 slide on the 17, and it'll work just fine. But really now it shoots worse because it's a shorter guide rod and it has a sharper recoil impulse, and just kind of a mid compromise, in my opinion. I'm sorry, guys. I know, just because it's the newest version, people are losing their mind over it. It's the best thing ever. I have seen some tests with those side by side, a 17 to a 47, and the 47 recoils more than the 17. So at that point, that tiny bit of modularity is not worth that to me. I think you should just buy a 17 or buy a 45, whatever. Tangent. I'm sorry. Ruger came out with a modular Glock. And ever since it's come out, I have seen zero problems in reliability. Aftermarket support has been booming. Companies like Icarus Precision and Mischief Machine, all these different people are releasing grip modules for them. It has an improved factory trigger, improved ergonomics, just a modernized and truly innovative version of a Glock. Probably the most innovative Glock clone to come out ever, I would say. Maybe Zev would compete with that a little bit with some of their really cool ported and comp versions and things like that, because they have a modular chassis system kind of sort of as well, but their guns are very expensive. So the RXM comes in, I believe, at
400 to 350 doubloons.
I mean, that's just absurd. At that point, you got to just buy it just because it's come on. You know what I mean? Come on. Let's be honest here. So Ruger RXM, honorable mention for me, and that's just my opinion. Don't kill me over it, but please comment down below. Let me know what you think about my opinion down below for sure. So my last honorable mention, and I'm gonna gloss over this one pretty quickly, is a CZ P10C. It can be the ported version, it can be the P10C, P10F, P10S, any of the P10 family. The P10 came out, let me see when the P10 first came out. The P10C came out in 2017. Been around for a while. Very well vetted gun, and in my opinion, right on the very back end of the time where there was a massive shift in the market towards really advancing pistol technology, heavy, right? With different, just things becoming way more diverse in the pistol market. The CZ P10C, brutally reliable, unbelievably reliable pistol. Great recoil impulse, great slide serrations, good optics cut, great iron sights, fantastic trigger for the time especially. Polymer striker fire triggers were not great back then. Imagine everything was like at the level of a Glock pretty much at that time, and the P10C came out and just like wiped the floor with it. Wonderful, great grip texture, metal magazines, just a very good gun. And even now, to this day, P10s can come in anywhere from, I have personally found them for
350 doubloons,
I would say anywhere from the
400 doubloons,
up to maybe the
750 doubloons.
Buy them new for the really top tier versions, the like competitive versions and things like that. Now that they have the ported version, they almost got it, in my opinion. They almost got it. They changed a lot of stuff about the slide. They gave you that chunk port, which is awesome. I'm like a massive ported guy. Every gun I have up here I think is ported, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, every single one. So massive fan of ports. That's great. They gave you better slide serrations, and they wrapped the slide serrations around the top. That was some original concern and or critique I had about the P10. And they also thickened the barrel, which means that it's just more durable, more reliable, or more accurate, I should say, not reliable, excuse me. Those kind of fall behind in priority to me versus having the weight on the front of the gun. It has a very natural weight. It doesn't feel too nose heavy, but just enough to where it even cuts down on that recoil even more, which is really nice. So it took a gun that already shoots fantastically and just, you know, leveled it up one more time. Now, the thing I'm disappointed with the P10 about is they didn't do anything with the frame. I think that is on purpose. I believe that CZ is probably trying to push out all the leftover frames they already had produced. So they're selling as many as they can with the P10 ported version. Soon enough, I almost guarantee we're gonna have a P10C like Gen 2 or something, where it's going to have the CZ P09 and P07 Nocturne style of grip module, where it has that different grip texture, maybe some ergonomic changes and things like that. So I really feel like, you know, they kind of released a new slide to increase sales and happen to throw the old grip modules on it in preparation for a new grip module on the Gen 2 or something. Or what I'm really hoping is that they are working on developing a chassis-based pistol as well, and that's when they're going to combine the new slide with the new chassis-based system, put it together, and we're good to go. Because I do feel like the ergonomics and some of the, you know, the grip texture, although effective, the way it looks and kind of its design ideology, kind of old, kind of past gen, and so it does need to be updated in my opinion. But a gun I could truly recommend to someone as a first-time gun owner and be totally confident that that gun will last them forever. And again, lots of variations of models. No matter what kind of first-time buyer you are, there's a model that fits your needs. So that's why it is an honorable mention on my list. Now, without further ado, my number one pistol for a new first-time handgun buyer. Okay, if you are a sharp viewer, you notice there's something on that wall that wasn't there a second ago, and that is the number one pistol I'd recommend to somebody who is buying their first handgun, and that is the Springfield Echelon. I have been accused of being an Echelon glazer for quite some time now, especially from one specific guy, and you know exactly who you are. But everybody, and I mean everybody, that has shot this gun, either they have been absolutely flabbergasted by how great of an overall package it is, or they're at least like, wow, this is a really good option, and Springfield or HS Product knocked it out of the park, and they were not expecting it at all, especially coming from the XD series of pistols, because those were, although reliable, definitely needed some work for sure. The Springfield Echelon is wonderful. MSRP anywhere from, I've seen them for about
500 to 750 doubloons.
for the comp version. It's also one of the newer guns, but it's well vetted, very reliable, aside from some magazine issues at the very beginning that were actually shooter induced, faulty install. It's a long story, but they're reliable. The Echelon has the benefit of being very recently designed and made. It seems like they took a lot of the cons from other brands and a lot of pros from other companies, and they threw it all into one package and made a gun that truly is, just as a build ideology and configuration, so well equipped and well balanced. This specific one is the comp version. So just like a lot of other guns I have, this has a comped and ported barrel. You can see there on the top. Get my hand to pull it back right there. Barrel's chunk ported, and so is the slide. That reduces recoil quite a bit, even though it's just 9mm. And I'm gonna say this again now, just get this out of the way. I understand 9mm doesn't recoil that much. Okay, guys, we get it. You're super strong, and you know, if you're afraid of 9mm, shoot at 22. You damn bad. I get it. Okay, dude. No one likes recoil. God, I get those comments so much, and it's so frustrating. But please comment below. Very soft shooting, very well balanced. Incredible slide serrations that no matter if you got blood, guts, sweat, water, whatever it is, very effective. Very effective. And they even have these large scallops right here in the back end that if you were to slip off of the front ones, you're gonna catch the ones by the chamber just fine and be able to rack this pistol easy all day long. It's also a very lightweight slide. And what that does is you have less reciprocating mass sliding back and forth on that barrel, causes it to have a softer recoil impulse. Very strong barrels. They have been very accurate and reliable, even the ported versions. The sights are Springfield's signature U-dot sights, the U in the rear there with that high visibility front sight on the front. Great sighting system. Not necessarily my favorite, but I don't really use iron sights much anymore, if I'm honest. I'm just kind of an optic guy at this point, as most other people are, but very effective. Totally fine. I like the iron sights, totally fine. Now, if you're somebody who really hates the U-notch type, you can buy a set of Springfield sights from their website that are just like this, but have the two high vis dots in the rear and then one in the front. So they got you covered there as well. Very innovative optic cut system. A lot of these pistols are cut for RMR, which is great, but some dots like this Vortex Defender XL, which is a really great massive window competition style dot, they use the Leupold Delta Point Pro footprint, and you can't fit it on a lot of RMR cuts. Springfield's system uses a bunch of small titanium dowels that allow every single optic to mount to their factory cut flush to the slide, directly to the slide, no plates needed, which allows them to be way more durable, way more reliable as far as even holding zero. Just a very smart and intelligent way to mount optics, and it makes it easier as a gun owner as well. So if you're a first-time gun owner and you want to just buy a red dot, really doesn't matter which one you buy, unless it's like an Acro or something that needs a cross bolt design, you don't need a plate. It'll fit. Find the right screw, it'll go right in and be mounted forever and work perfectly, 100%. And that is massive. Down to the frame of the Echelon, this is the FDE frame. This originally came with a black one. I switched it out and just kept the black backstrap just for aesthetic reasons. But the frames on these have great ergonomics, very comfortable, good for large and small hands, and their texture is wonderful. Now, I do wish texture was a little bit greater, and for me personally, I wish it had a larger frame. I got larger hands, and so my finger does go around the trigger a little too much. Now, that being said, that leads us into one of the biggest pros of the Echelon, and that is this uses the COG system, which is the Central Operating Group. Just another name for an FCU or a chassis system. Just like I've talked about before, this has a serialized chassis fire control group that is removable from the grip. That means you can buy any grip you want. Mischief Machine, Sharps Brothers, Icarus, all kinds of different companies making grips for this gun that will fit your hand is exactly how you want it to be. Or in Springfield's case, they do have a aggressive grip texture version or a larger version, easily configurable. And it doesn't even use pins, which is incredible. This thing doesn't even use pins at all. You take your fingers and pop it out, throw it into a new one, pop the slide on, you're done. Easy, toolless. I don't think that's talked about enough, how simple it is to configure this pistol to however you want it to be. Great factory trigger, in my opinion. Almost like a polymer version of a 320 trigger, except it's not gonna blow your dick off. Really, really awesome. Great trigger shoe, long, comfortable, flat. There's your wall. Nice, smooth rolling brake. No over travel. Nice, short tactile reset. Great trigger. Very rarely will you find someone that can outshoot even standard triggers. And so if you're a new gun owner, this is gonna be totally serviceable for you. By far, no big deal at all. It is a full size. This one is a full size gun. They have a compact version, which is about the same size as a Glock 19, which I showed you earlier. And if this is too big for you, which it probably is if you want to conceal carry it, this is more of like a bedside gun, open carry style gun, competition, flat range stuff, training, that kind of thing. But the 4.0C or the compact version, you definitely could EDC that gun all day long. 15 round capacity, and this one is a 17 round capacity on the flush fit. Just excellent guns, guys. I know I slob all over these things, but truly, if you haven't shot one, go give it a try. You will be very, if not impressed, surprised. You'll be very surprised and pleasantly surprised at that. It is truly, in my opinion, as of right now, the best bang for buck and the most well-equipped and well thought out polymer striker fired pistol on the market. And because they have the 4.0 compact version, it fits into all the roles you could try to fit it into and will really perform well in every single one of those roles. So, what do you think about my top 5 pistols I'd recommend to a first-time shooter list. Is yours similar? Is it different? Let me know in the comments down below. I want to hear it. I genuinely want to hear it, guys. I really love seeing the differences in opinions, as long as it's cordial down there. I love seeing the differences in opinions in what you guys recommend to someone who is new into shooting. That being said, if you are a new firearm owner, welcome to the community. I appreciate you taking a step into self-preservation and taking control of your own personal safety. That is awesome. These are tools, but they also are inherently can be dangerous, and so take your time, ease into it. There are a lot of people that are more than willing to help you and walk you through any questions you possibly have. If you have any questions, please drop in my comment section. Tons of YouTubers will be happy to help you out. Hopefully a lot of the guys that follow me will help you out as well. I'm glad you are watching this video for that reason. Hopefully it was helpful. I've got a lot of stuff coming. I always say that, but just to keep you guys excited and engaged, plenty of videos coming, new pistols, optics, products, training videos, political videos, all kinds of stuff. I'm very excited to continue this YouTube journey. We just crossed, let me say this, we just crossed 5,000 subscribers. Guys, thank you so much for that. I can't tell you how hard this has been, especially working full-time at another job. YouTube is not easy. It takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication, a lot of late nights, but it has been an absolute pleasure and a blast. I've made a lot of great connections. I've met a lot of really, really cool people in the industry, and it's extremely exciting, but very difficult. It is a labor of love for sure. So if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. If this is not your first time at the video, if it is your first time, subscribe for sure. But if you came back to watch me again, or this video got recommended to you for the second time, come on, dude, come on, subscribe. Do me a solid, it's free. Subscribe, please subscribe, okay? Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for more content from the Ben Hart Shoots YouTube channel. And until next time, talk less, shoot more, peace. So back in my Minecraft days, like I'm in high school again. It's a wee little garden snake. Look how cool that is, dude. I miss having snakes.